With us now, the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden. He joins us from the library at the Naval Observatory in Washington. Mr. Vice President, good morning.
Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
Good. Let me begin with the State of the Union and what the President said. Why so much emphasis on executive orders when so many people believe they have limited abilities and most of the big things have to be through Congress?
Most of the big things do have to go through Congress, and the president said, I want Congress to do that. As a matter of fact, as I sat there with John Boehner, he and I were talking about the prospects before the president spoke about the prospects of the House moving on immigration. Last year, the president asked for move on immigration, and in fact, as everybody said, no, it's dead on arrival. This year, it looks like we may get something done. In the meantime, the president eased up some of the deportation that was underway. So the president will take action where, in fact, he thinks it will spur action in the states and federally and with the Congress, or where we have to where we can make some progress. We're just not going to sit around and wait for the Congress if they choose not to act.
But it seems to me that last night the president, including the remarkable portrait of Sergeant Remsburg, is somehow trying to capture the spirit of America and build a kind of identification with this can-do attitude.
Well, he is. Look, the president and I remain incredibly optimistic. Relative to the rest of the world, Charlie, and you know international relations, you travel the world, we are better positioned than any nation in the world to lead the economy of the 21st century. China, Europe, no matter where you go, America is the engine. We'll be the epicenter of energy in the 21st century in North America. We have the greatest workforce in the world. And so this is about taking advantage of the assets that we have, and let's move. That's why the president put me in charge of this new task force that's going to gather all these forces, including companies and universities and community colleges, to do the things that the American people say. Look, every initiative the president put forward, the polling data you have done and everyone else has done show the American people agree with us on it. And so part of this is making the case repeatedly to the American people, who in turn make the case to the Congress. So this is like we did before, Charlie, on energy. We said all of the above. We went out and we did renewables. We went out and we did oil. We now did gas. We went out and at the same time did, and it's the same thing. All of the above, man. We've got to move. The middle class needs access.
Mr. Vice President, I know last night the president called for immigration reform again, but I noticed that he left out the phrase pathway to citizenship, which is a pretty big omission. He used that specific phrase last year. Does that mean you're willing to cut a deal with Republicans that would just provide legal status to illegal immigrants in this country?
No, it doesn't mean that. We still think by far and away the preferable route to go is citizenship. We don't want two-tier people in America, those who are legal but not citizens and citizens. And so what we are saying is, and I've said to John last night, pass something. If that's what you're going to pass it. And to use the wonkish term, let the Congress get to conference and let the Congress battle it out and decide what the route is. And then we'll decide whether we think it's good enough. But citizenship is the pathway.
Mr. Vice President, you've had a long career in the Congress and was chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And now you have former Secretary of Defense Bob Gates writing a book in which he said you were wrong on almost every major decision in the last 40 years.
Well, you know, Bob and I like each other. We both acknowledge we each other possess integrity, as he said in his book. But we have disagreed for 40 years. I thought we should end the war in Vietnam. That's why I ran. He didn't think that. I thought Iran-Contra was a disaster. He thought it was a good idea. I thought Gorbachev was an agent of change. You remember, he encouraged Reagan not to view him as an agent of change. I thought we should have war crime tribunals in Bosnia, and he thought we shouldn't. I thought we should end this war in Afghanistan after taking care of al-Qaeda, which we were about to finish doing. He didn't. The president said last night it's time to end the war in Afghanistan. That's not Bob's position.
Mr. Vice President, can I ask you then on Afghanistan, because as we draw down our forces in Afghanistan, military leaders have said that they would like a force of between 9,000 and 12,000 at the end of this year. You are calling for a much smaller force. Why?
That is not true, by the way. I read these reports about what I've called for.
How many troops should be there then?
My counsel is to the president privately. That's why I think that bothered Bob a lot, that the president listens to me a lot. And so I have taken no public position on that. So that's not true, number one. Number two, there is a division within even the military as to how many troops should be left behind. But the military is united on one thing, except I'm not sure Bob is, and that is if in fact there is no security agreement where our troops are guaranteed certain rights if they stay, the military says we shouldn't stay. So Karzai has to sign this so-called BSA, this basing agreement, in order for anything to happen. The president's in the process of making that decision now. I keep my counsel to him and keep it private, and he will make a decision shortly. But here's the deal. We went there for an explicit purpose, to defeat and dismantle al-Qaeda and prevent them from returning. We did not go there to nation build. We did not go there to occupy. And the president said this war is coming to an end. We'll prepare to continue to train forces in Afghanistan of the Afghan military and have a small CT operation there. That is a decision to be made by the president after consultation with the military. I don't know who's putting these numbers out, but ask anyone. No one has heard me say in the Situation Room offer any specific number. I do that privately with the president.
But you're saying the president was listening to you and not to his Secretary of Defense.
No, I didn't say that. I said Bob Gates in his book laments the president listened to me.
And then finally, let me ask about your own future. Does your wife, Dr. Biden, I think you might want to run for president?
What, does my wife want me to run for president? What you said? I'm sorry.
Does Jill want you to run for president?
Well, Jill and I will make that decision later down the road. It's too early to do that right now. I've got a job to do in the meantime, and if I do the job well and decide to run for president, will help. If I don't do the job well and decide to run for president, won't help. And if I don't run for president, we'll all be okay. Will
Hillary Clinton's decision affect your decision?
No, not directly. The only reason a man or woman should run for president, I'm sure Hillary views it the exact same way, is if they think they're better positioned to be able to do what the nation needs at the moment. And what is the plan you have for the country? And that's the only thing that to generate whether you run.
Mr. Vice President, thank you so much. I didn't mean to cut you off, but thank you so much.
No, that's okay. No, I'm glad to stop talking about it.
Good to see you.
You can come back tomorrow. And